All right, thank you. Thank you, Pauline, for confirming that. So I believe we can get right into it. Sorry for the delay. So thank you all for joining. This is the job application feedback on the position that you had applied for. That is on the legal assistant. And I believe you're all ready for us to get started. All right, so my name is Shadrach and I work with Gap Recruitment. And I'm going to take you through the job application feedback and insight. And I believe we are going to build a constructive session together so that it does not only help you for this specific application, but also it's going to help you for your future applications, right? So basically, bear in mind that as a recruitment firm, we have had extensive experience hiring for various companies across East Africa, and that gives us leverage in terms of what we can be able to offer you, not only to help you in the current application, but also in your future applications to other organizations. So this is something that we have been building up so that we can give value to our candidates who are applying for specific jobs in our organization. So, right, so we are going to get started. I think it's wise if maybe you all understand what really goes into any job application, because now you find that normally we advertise our jobs on the website, but then you don't know what goes behind the tent, or as I put it. So I believe it's wise for you to know what goes on at the selection process and what really informs we as a recruitment agency picking a candidate. So once you make your application, what's really the due process until we get someone to apply for maybe a specific position. I'll also advise maybe we can all mute so that we don't make any distraction, or virtually I can mute everyone. So back to the application. So the first thing on the selection process. So normally, as you see, when you go to our website, you fill on your details, and then now what happens, you submit your CV. So the next stage, your CV goes to our system, and the initial stage is a CV screening. So this is done by our softwares, and it gives a score to each of the CV. Like if you're applying for this position, that is the legal assistant, once you upload your CV, it goes through the first stage, that is CV screening. And the screening is done by the software, as I've earlier reiterated it. And what it generally does, it uses AI to scan through your CV, and then it picks through your experiences and metadata, and then it compares it with the JD. And then from there, it gives you a score, like what is the score rating of your CV against the JD. Okay, so that's the first step. That is under CV screening. And it should be noted that at this stage, you've had maybe ATS CV and stuff like that. So the fact that if your CV is ATS compliant, it means that the application tracking software can be able to pick the metadata from your CV, or it can read your CV and pick up the metadata, and then it compares it against the JD, and it's able now to score you in terms of percentage. Now, still on this CV screening, the key thing here to note is that, just a minute. All right, I can hear someone was speaking. Okay, so CV screening stage still. Once the software is done, the recruiter also screens through the CVs, and so the recruiter will go through all the CVs that are on our system, and then they try to see qualified candidates. Once that is done, it goes to a process that is called a phone screening. So this is where we called candidates. So if you pass through the CV screening stage, you don't get a regret message, then what happens is you put to the next stage, that is phone screening. Now you're being called so that the recruiter or the sourcing strategist can confirm that you're the person and also can confirm your expertise against what you have stated on the CV. So to gauge if what you've written on your CV, you're well versed with it, or it's just something you've picked from somewhere and then you put on your CV. So if you pass through the phone screening stage, then you proceed to the interview stage. So this is where you find the candidates who have passed through the phone screening are then invited for the interview. So these are currently our process internally, and it's rigorous to some point. Yeah, so that's it. Now, for the position that you guys were applying for, that is the legal assistant, there are some merit points that we're looking into, and if you're applying, these were some of the scope points. That's now you should at least have some expertise or experience in regulatory compliance and stakeholder engagements. Sorry for the typo there. And then we also had legal document preparation and record management, litigation support, and customer. All this is what we're looking for. So we're not just looking at someone who has written this on the CV. Like, have you done it before? What was the impact that you made? And we are trying also to assess if you really have the expertise or you just maybe writing it in form of it's just a room or something of the sort. So someone who probably had all the score points will proceed maybe the next stage. But also at least maybe if you didn't had one, you could also proceed to the next stage. But now those who will get a rejection, possibly they don't have most of what we are looking for. Yeah, so that is it. Yeah. Now, to the common mistakes maybe that we identified that cut maybe across the applications. So this is just a summary that we are going to give, and it's gonna give you insight on what really transpired or what we were really gauging on. So the first one is on generic CV summaries and then irrelevant experience that is relating to the legal assistant. Then poor presentation of responsibilities, lack of CV tailoring, formatting and submission errors, and then monitoring and analytics. And I'm also going to give you tips for success, maybe in future applications or something of the sort. So the first one, on our system, I went through it, and the first common error. Normally, I think as our culture as Kenyans, what we normally like to do is make late submissions. So I noticed that 44 people made late submissions for this position. So which means once you make a late submission, it means that your application is not going to be reviewed. Why? Because by the time you're making the submission, possibly there are some other people who have been reviewed, and once we get good candidates, there will not really be a need to review others. So if you make a late submission, maybe some few hours to the deadline or something of the sort. So it's always a good practice for you to make your submissions as soon as possible. Once the advert is made or once you see the job advert, it's good to make the submission as soon. And this is something that I've really noted for some of the positions. Candidates, you find they lack last minute. The only time you're going to be considered for if you make a late submission, if maybe the candidates we had, for example, who applied early and we reviewed and they were good, if maybe they're rejected at some stage, that's when we come back to the pool. So it's a good practice for you to apply to a job post as soon as possible. All right? Yeah. Next one. I think this is where now the issue is. Generic CV summaries. Let me ask you one thing, and I believe for a lawyer, I believe all we are in the legal industry, and one thing about lawyers, I think they normally have, or for example, the database based on the candidates who applied. You guys, you really have a lot of content. You really know, you really have a lot of information. You really know a lot. And the way you present yourself, if you compare the legal practitioners and CVs and other maybe other disciplines or fields, for example, engineers and stuff, I think the level at which your CVs are a bit at a higher notch. But there are some of the things that maybe you're missing out. For example, here on the generic CV summaries, let's just look at this one. For example, when you say, I'm an enthusiastic advocate of the High Court of Kenya, eager to contribute to the success of the team through hard work, attention to detail, exceptional, something like that. This is point number one, and this is not gonna help you. It's going to help you not only for this position, but also for your future CVs, for your future job applications. What do we expect in a summary? Summary is like a summarized form of your cover letter, because the cover letter is normally the answer to the JD. Because now you're saying, hey, you're looking for this? All right, I can give you this, or I'm the best candidate for what you're looking for. So your CV summary should not be generic, because if you say I'm an enthusiastic advocate of the High Court, yes, you can be that. I'm eager to contribute success of a team. Yes, you can be that. Yeah. And all the other things here. I mean, for example, this position, we had a pool of over, was it around 200 to 300 candidates? So you can imagine, how are you going to stand out? Like, how are you going to stand out in that pool? Because bear in mind, possibly all those candidates are advocate of the High Court or something of the sort, okay? So we want you to answer like, here I'm an employer. I'm looking for someone who can do legal and records management and all those other things that we stated there, customer complaints and all those other things. So that is what should be captured on the summary. You're saying, you're looking for this? Okay, I can do this, or I have done this previously. So your CV summary should be an answer to the JD in a short form, okay? So it's will capture who you are, what you're good at, and also you can support in terms of evidence with what you've done previously, so that it cannot just be generic or something of the sort. And finally, you can highlight what you're bringing into the table, okay? So, yeah, I gave some sort of a solution, just a line: legal assistant with 2 years of experience in regulatory compliance, contract drafting, litigation support within the betting industry. So something of the sort. This is just a sentence. Now you see here, I'm starting to align that you're the best candidate for this specific position, okay? So some of the things here, I'm not saying you remove them on the JD, on your CV. What I'm just saying is that on the summary should really answer the JD. It should tell me why I should proceed with you as a candidate, because some of these other things, like you being hardworking, being a team player, they can come under another section that is on strengths or on skills that you possess as an individual. Okay. Yeah. So that is that. All right. Just a minute, I admit someone. All right, so we can proceed to the next one. So another thing was on irrelevant experience. I hope the CV summary is okay. The second one here was on the irrelevant experience. So I'm not saying you omit your previous experiences, but it's not only experience, but also you see some people bringing in strengths, and especially also on the summary. Like let me give you some quick advice. If you're writing your CV, each and every space, each and every section, you should tailor it to that specific job. Like utilize each space to give you a plus to someone who is reading, so that if I skip section 1, I move to section 4. In section 4, I'm still going to find something that's a plus for you. Okay. So I'm not really saying you remove the irrelevant experience. We can still have them, but now they should not take the center stage. Maybe they are the first or something like that, or maybe they are being captured on the CV summary. So things like that. I think these we can really talk about more on the sidelines, or if maybe you're looking for coaching and stuff. Um, Now, here is what I said. If you worked in a general administration, for example, you've been in general administration, right? We want to see, yeah, what is that you did in general administration that is related to legal practice? You might have went there and you did something to do with money and stuff, but that is not really relevant to the position that you are applying to, that is in legal. So what is it that you did in general administration and you can transfer it to this legal assistant role, because that is what we need. That is in summary. The next one is poor presentation of responsibilities, and this one, it's really affected, especially those people who are in their early career or mid-level. Because now when you find someone telling you, okay, this is a position, for example, the previous one here, this one. So the first point or the first bullet here, they are listing as their responsibilities is handle customer complaints. I mean, yeah, you handled customer complaints, yeah. But how are you going to stand out? Remember, for this application, for example, we had over 100 applicants. I don't know, it's I think around 200, 300 there. So how are you going to stand out as a professional? Like, if you just write handled customer complaints, someone will be like, so what? Yeah, because we want to paint you like you're not only going to work to do your day-to-day responsibilities, but at least try to portray that you're either after impact or something of the sort. Okay. So for example here, if maybe you don't know how to present your roles and responsibilities. I think another one someone can write on the roles and responsibilities, and it's not really right. Someone can be like litigation, or maybe something like that. Like those can be just, someone can say this is just pronouns, or this is jargon that is in the legal industry. In short, it does not tie you, or you're not tying yourself to that specific statement that you're giving. For example, these investigated and resolved over 550 plus customer complaints related to compliance issues, ensuring 100% resolution within regulatory timelines. So I've just given a tip here. If maybe you don't know how to show impact in your roles and responsibilities, I'm not saying all the roles and responsibilities should have impact, but at least it cannot be all the places you've worked in, you've never given any impact. All right. So a good tip, you can use the STAR method: situation, task, action, and result. So it means that you are in a situation, or you're doing a task. This is the action that you're doing, and this is the result. Okay. So, for example, this one: investigated and resolved over 50 customer complaints. All right. And so this is just tied to the task investigation and the action of resolving 50 plus complaints. And the result was 100% resolution within the regulatory compliance timeline. Now, the next one is on lack of CV tailoring. I think I've really featured this one. And This is so important because now you realize, especially for your field as the legal practitioner. So, one thing, as I highlighted earlier, the people in legal practice, they normally have a lot to bring. Like they normally have a lot to give or to write and stuff. But this is one thing that I'll tell you. When we are screening a CV, for example, when the recruiter is screening your CV, I think it takes only about 1 minute to screen your CV. In some cases, it's just a few seconds because it's a matter of reading the summary quickly, not even all the words, and then they skim through your experience and any other thing that is there. So it's something that takes only a few seconds. They're not going to read line by line, okay? Because if you're a recruiter or a sourcing strategist, you have around 300 CVs to review, okay? And they also have to deliver on timelines because now these ones should be forwarded to the client. So they are not really going to read through each and every page or each and every section of your CV because they have a lot to screen. They have other CVs to screen. All right. So it just takes about a minute. So I was saying here, like we normally have a practice of using a one CV for all the jobs that you're applying, which is not a good practice. Like, for example, if, and as I stated earlier on, I think we can just go back here. If maybe there's a job that is centered, for example, maybe on litigation alone, all right, or project legal research and analysis, maybe those are two different jobs. So CV tailoring first. CV tailoring, all right, here. CV tailoring is where you're trying to maximize each space in your CV. You're maximizing each word you're putting in your CV so that it aligns as much as possible to the JD. Mark my words, it aligns as much as possible to the JD. I'm not saying you lie, but you've read the JD, you've understood it, and you know what you're capable of. So you're not writing in your CV, starting from the summary, what is it that you're capable of, especially on the CV summary, especially on the strengths and hard skills that you're bringing into the table. So my advice will be, it's a good practice to always tailor your CV if you're applying to a specific job. Reason being, if you use a one-fit CV for all the job applications, there's a high chances that the important details that are related to that specific job you're applying is going to be hidden in other irrelevant information. So if you put all the information about you there, even the others which are not relevant to the job you're applying to, they are just going to shade the ones that are relevant. And the sourcing strategist or the recruiter may not pick them up. Okay. So you want to maximize each space, especially on the CV summary, especially on your strengths. That is the hard skills that you're bringing in. May not really change much on your experiences because that is what you did, but mostly on your CV summary and on your strengths, that is the hard skills that you're bringing in, and maybe possibly key achievements that you've made as a professional. Okay. So bear that in mind, all right? Yeah. Um, okay. Now, I've talked here about CV screening. It goes a long way with using the jargon that is on the JD, okay? Like, if something is being stated on the JD, we need someone who can do litigation. Okay, it's good to have those jargons in your CV, litigation and stuff. Okay, if that is what you've done. If you have not done it, then don't include it, because if you lie, also there's a process that you're going to be screened through. They'll identify or they'll know that you've not done that. So CV tailoring is very important, especially for this stage of CV screening. That is when the ATS is going to scan through your CV. It's normally picking keywords that are in the JD or that are relevant in the JD, and you have it in your CV. So if maybe it picks 8/10 keywords that were required, then there's a high chances that your CV rating will be given a 80% or something like that. So it means that your CV is aligning far much better to the JD, and it means that you're more qualified for that position. Same case when the sourcing strategist is going to scan through your CV at that around 1 minute there is a high chances that when he or she read, for example, your summary or sees your skills or your strengths, it's easier for them to pick what is in the JD rather than you leaving it hidden. What is required, you want the sourcing strategist or the recruiter to read through the passages. And I don't think that's possible. So it's a good practice to put them at a strategic position. So this is just a screenshot of what it looks in the system. So this could be your CV. This is what is this. And then now this is normally the score rating, your CV and stuff. So yeah, that is it. The importance now on the JD. As we wind up, overqualification. Now, this position was legal assistant. Okay. Now, at times, or as I saw, there are some people who are overqualified for the specific position. Okay. One, it's a good practice for you to give what you have done. It's a good practice for you to give maybe what you're capable of. Okay. But it's also another thing on overqualification. All right. So I'm not saying that you trim what your capability so that you can fit in the shoe. But for example, for this specific position, it was just a legal assistant. It really didn't need someone who is so experienced and stuff for the specific position. So if you're overqualified, normally as an employer, um, okay, overqualification presents this to an employer. If you're overqualified, it means that um, there is a high chance of you leaving the company. Why? Because your overqualifications presents you opportunities that you can be able to leverage on. So if you get a better opportunity, there is a high chance that you're going to leave. And that means a loss for the company. Why? Because the company will have to go back to the drawing table to recruit someone else to replace you. And this takes the company resource, because you may find that the company will have to hire a recruitment agency and stuff. And it means also, if you're holding a position, as for example, there was a case or something, and then you're leaving the company may incur revenue losses because you're not, because you're leaving your position. Okay. So employers will normally want maybe to avoid such things, but someone maybe who is just rightly qualified, not overqualified, then there is a high chances that the compensation in terms of money will be enough for them for that specific position before they start also growing. All right. Yeah, so it's also a good thing to maybe analyze the job, and then this goes a long way with CV tailoring, just you giving enough of what is required and maybe not giving overboard. But also a quick tip, do not keep your capabilities just because you don't want to be seen overqualified or something of this. It's a good thing to give chance to that. Yeah. All right. So another thing was on CV structure and formatting and also submission errors. So as I said, lawyers, you really have a lot to say, but now the CV structure. Always bear in mind that someone is going to read your CV. So take a look at your CV. Yeah. Is it too squeezed? How is the structure? Is it easy to read? How is the fonting and stuff? Do you have long, like those passages that you group in there and there? I believe hardly will someone read passages. So you'll want to structure your CV in such a way that it's eye-catching. Someone can just scan through and then he has picked one or two things about you. Okay. Bolding things and stuff. All right. So CV structure, format, and submission error. So you could section your CV. Like I saw someone there on his or her experience. I think he was highlighting something and then he's explaining the passage. And then also the way you're structuring a CV, it's like, I don't know, a novel or something like that. So have a look at your CV and see if it was you, will you read? Also bear in mind, I think on average, the sourcing strategist or the recruiter will have about 1 minute to go through your CV. So just at a glance like this, am I able to pick something from your CV? All right. So that is a good tip. Here on the solution, clearly, keep your CV clear and structured with bullets and concise headings. Double check that you're submitting the correct document, because in some instances, we normally find someone is submitting personal documents, um, the graduation and whatever, and those are not needed at this stage. Also ensuring that your CV is ATS friendly, okay? Because now the moment you start using tables and stuff, on your CV, for some of the structuring, the ATS is not going to be able to scan and pick the words. Okay, so it's a good thing to ensure that your CV is also ATS friendly. I believe finally, this is the tip that I'm going to give you. So, all right, let me just go back here. Okay, so in Matters CV, I think if maybe you could be struggling or something of the sort, or you want to improve or navigate higher, it's a good practice for you maybe to sort professional CV writing surveys if you cannot do it. I just picked here a sample because of what we saw on our database of about over 80,000 CVs for the jobs that we have conducted for our clients. We saw it's wise to we have a sister company or a sister department within Gap Recruitment. It's called CV Tap, and it's specialized on CV revamping, interview coaching, and LinkedIn revamp, aptitude test, and all those others. You can just Google it. And this is one of the CV. This is just for a colleague in our company. If you see this CV, like for example, structuring, if maybe we are hiring a recruiter, okay, if for example we are hiring a recruiter and some of the things that we are looking at is maybe talent, want this recruiter can be able to manage talent, he has experience in recruitment and onboarding, and also does interviews and stuff. So you see, if I'm a sourcing strategist and I'm going through a CV, what I'll just do here, sorry for the misalignment here when I was making the presentation, but it should actually align perfectly together. You see, it's easier to pick talent management, recruitment, onboarding, talent acquisition, and stuff. All right. Now look at these here, career highlights. Interviewed 200 plus professions, achieving 90% success rate in placing top talent, reducing hiring time. So you see, as a sourcing strategist, I quickly pick the impact this specific professional has been able to achieve, okay? Because my starting point will be the summary, okay? Now, as you look at her summary, dedicated talent acquisition and onboarding specialist, career coaching professional with passion for transforming how organizations connect with top talent, how individuals are achieve their career goals. Bringing forth expertise in providing personalized one-on-one service to address clients' unique needs, blah, blah, blah. So the CV summary, you should not waste any time or any space explaining things that will not make you stand out. It will not help you in securing the job. So it should just be an answer to the JD. Secondly, it's good to have sections like this where you highlight your uh, impact or your key achievements. All right. So, and then bolding it and structuring it the way it is. Because now if you put it in under the experience there, maybe someone may miss to read them. But if you give them their own section, apart from the normal roles and responsibilities which you undertake in your experience, and then it becomes easier to view them. On this industry expertise, these are the key. So, for example, the position that we were hiring, if you have, for example, these ones, um, just a minute, these ones, regulatory compliance, stakeholder engagement, litigation support, administrative legal support, all those ones. So those ones now could be here. Right, yeah, they could now be here, and also they could form here at the strengths. On strength, that is exceptional communication, blah, blah, blah. So this is just an example of good structure and how you format and stuff. So maybe if you need help, you can get in touch with them. That's their number there. Then you can be able to call and stuff. I don't know if there is something else here. Right. All right. So I believe that's the end of the session. And thank you for listening. So what I'm just going to do, I'll take maybe a few questions, and then from there, we're going to close it up. There are some questions that you guys had shared on the application. So I'm just going to review a few of them. Then in case someone still has an issue, and then you can just shoot it up, all right? So thank you so much. Let me just proceed to it. Okay. All right. So I believe most of them we have been able to answer. Um, so someone had asked the issue of work experience. The issue of work experience when the one required is less than the work experience required. How does the number of years that one has worked determine the ability to take up and do the job to the employer satisfaction? Here on the work experience, I believe, if I'm not wrong, the good starting point for you to gain work experience would be is just a minute. I'll call you. I'm on a meeting. Just a minute. So the starting point in terms of work experience, I believe it's a good practice for you to do internships, or if you've done internships and still you're not securing a job. My personal advice for you is they normally say you need money get a job. I'm not saying you bribe, but if you can maybe pay an institution so that you can be able to learn, it's going to give you leverage because now you're one step at the door of that specific organization. You never know. After a while, they may decide to observe you. Okay, so things like that. All right, so for some of the things here, I believe I have covered. Um, Maybe if someone just has any question, you can just unmute and then you shoot it up before we end the session, or you can type it on the chat.
Hello.
Yes, Eva, you can just give your question.
I don't have a question per se. I wasn't sure. Did you confirm whether you'll be sharing the slides? Yeah, I can see Miss Kimani is asking the same thing.
Ah, wait, you didn't see the slides?
Oh, I came in quite late, so I think
All
I
right.
missed a chunk of the slides.
Okay. Maybe you can just someone confirm. Interesting.
No, I'm sure others could see them. I'm saying I came in quite late into the meeting, so I missed the previous slides. So we're asking if we're going to get the slides after the presentation.
Oh, okay. You're asking if you will get the slides of the presentation like the initial ones?
Yes,
All right.
correct.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. Yep. So just a minute. Actually, you can see the slides? Right. Yep. Someone else?
So,
Adol Adolphin?
hello.
Yes, please.
So I have a question.
Okay.
During the job searching journey, you tend to know like there's some areas or some industries that uh like they need lawyers, and for you to get that job, you need to have a background of a specific industry. So in such a way, maybe you can tend to want to apply for a job. Maybe yes, you are only overqualified for that job, but from your point, you're like, let me apply for it. I'll get the experience I need in this industry, and it will open up doors for around the same industries in other bigger companies. So in such a case, will you still disqualify a person on the basis they're overqualified? Should they state it on their cover letter that yes, I am overqualified, but I want to get into this field? How can someone go about it?
Nice, right. One thing I'll advise you is do not keep your qualifications just because you want to be seen overqualified. One, you never know the people who have applied because everyone can be overqualified for that specific position. So if maybe you keep your qualifications, then you can easily be dropped off. So my advice would be it's very hard to know, but for each application, it's good for you to give your best in terms of as long as you've tailored your CV, this is what they want, and you've tailored your CV to align with the JD, then give your best shot. The second reason is employers are different. Other employers are skeptical or they fear on employee retention. That's why for a specific role, they not want someone who is overqualified. But other employers, they want overqualified people because if you go there and then you do a good job, or if you get another opportunity and you want to leave, they're always or they are always, and if you've done a good job, right? So they can easily retain you by maybe adding you the compensation or stuff like that. So the point on overqualification should not really worry you. What I'll just say is, as long as You've tailored your CV to align with JD in terms of this is what you guys want, this is what I'm bringing in. So give your best shot. And as long as the qualifications you're presenting are related to that specific industry, then it's a good practice to give your best shot. I hope you've answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Anyone else?